There was silence on the red desert of Mars. Only the sound of wind moving dust across the empty ground. Jack, a lonely space engineer, sat in his small metal cabin, staring at an old photo on the wall. It was of earth-green trees, blue skies, people smiling. He had not seen those things in many years. He lived alone, worked alone, and spoke to no one except his machine assistant. Life was quiet, but also empty. Then, one evening, just as he was finishing his meal, there was a knock on the metal door. Jack froze. No one ever knocked. There was no one nearby. He grabbed his old plasma tool, just in case, and slowly opened the door. Standing outside was a small girl, but not a normal one. She had light purple skin, big, shining eyes, and hair that moved like it was floating. Her clothes were torn, and she held a small card in her tiny hands. Jack looked left and right, but there was no ship, no sign of life, just her. She looked up at him and said in a soft, shaking voice, "My mom is so lonely. Can you please be my dad at her birthday party?" Jack blinked, not sure if he had heard her right. Her voice was gentle, but there was sadness in it. Deep and real, he wanted to say no, but he could not. Something about her felt honest. Jack stepped outside, looking around again. "Where's your ship?" he asked. She pointed behind a rock, and as he followed her, he saw it a small, round craft. Glowing faintly blue, it didn't look dangerous. Just old, damaged, and tired like the girl. Without saying more, he agreed. He climbed into the ship with her. The inside was warm and quiet. The girl sat beside him, holding her card tight. Jack asked her name, but she only said, "You can call me Star." As the ship took off, Jack looked back at his small cabin. Part of him feeling like he was making a mistake. Another part feeling like this was the most important thing he had done in years. The ship moved fast, far faster than it should have. And then suddenly they were not in space anymore. They entered a tunnel of color. Like flying through a dream, stars, clouds, and flashes of memory passed by the windows. Jack grabbed his seat, unsure if this was real or some trick. The girl seemed calm, watching him closely. Like she was studying his reaction. Finally, they arrived at a quiet planet, hidden behind rings of dust and light. It looked broken floating islands, purple skies, and glowing rivers. The ship landed near a strange house built from crystal and bone. Jack stepped out carefully. The air was thick, but breathable. He could hear soft music playing in the distance, but it stopped when he approached the door. The girl led him inside, and there she was, her mom. Sitting alone at a table, a tall, beautiful alien woman with silver eyes and a soft, tired smile. She looked surprised to see Jack. "But happy you came," she said. Her voice was like a song, but there was pain behind it. Jack sat down at the table, unsure what to say. There was food, but it didn't smell like anything. The room was full of strange decorations. Balloons that didn't float, candles that made no heat, and a cake that looked untouched. The girl gave her mom the card, and the woman cried softly. She whispered, "Thank you, Star." Then they all sat in silence. Jack tried to make conversation, but the woman only gave short answers, like she was tired or afraid. The girl smiled the whole time, like she was proud of her surprise, but Jack noticed something odd. There were photos on the walls, and in one of them, he was there, holding the girl in his arms. Smiling like a father, his heart skipped. He had never been here before, never met them. So why was he in that picture? He stood up and looked around more, finding more pictures, some faded, some new, in all of them. Different men were standing beside the mother and the girl. Some looked happy, some confused. None of them were there now. Jack returned to the table, trying to stay calm. He whispered, "What is this?" The girl looked at him with sad eyes and said, "You're the only one who stayed this long. The room grew colder. The lights dimmed. The mother looked away. Jack felt the pressure in his chest grow. Something was wrong. Very wrong. But before he could leave, the girl touched his hand. "Please stay a little longer," she said. "Just until the candles go out." Jack sat back down. His mind spinning, his heart told him to run. But his soul said wait. Something important was happening here. Something sad, something dangerous, and outside. Hidden behind the strange trees, shadows moved, watching, waiting. Like this birthday party was only the beginning of something far deeper. And far darker. Jack woke up in a soft, glowing room. The walls shimmered like liquid glass, and faint music drifted from somewhere he could not see. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming, but the weight of his boots on the floor reminded him it was real. He had stayed the night, even though something inside him screamed to leave. The little alien girl, Star, stood at the doorway, holding a tray of steaming drinks. Her eyes were brighter now, but still carried the same quiet sadness. "Mom is waiting for you," she said softly. Jack sat up, rubbing his temples. He didn't remember lying down. The last thing he remembered was sitting at the table. Watching the strange candles flicker without melting, Star guided him through a narrow hall. The walls were lined with pictures again, but this time, Jack noticed something even stranger. Every photo was slightly different from the ones he had seen yesterday. In these new pictures, the men beside Lyra and Star had different faces. Different uniforms, different smiles. Some of them looked almost like him, but not quite. Each photo seemed to be from a slightly different reality. They entered a larger chamber filled with soft light and flowing curtains that looked like liquid. Lyra sat at the far end of a long table, her hands folded, eyes low. Her hair shimmered like strands of silver water. The table was covered with food against strange fruits. Cakes, drinks, but none of it smelled real. It was like a dream copying what a party should look like. Lyra rose and gave a faint smile. "Good morning, Jack," she said. Her voice was warm but fragile, like she had practiced saying his name. Jack sat down across from her. Star took her seat beside him. "Thank you for coming to my birthday," Lyra added. "It has been so long since we celebrated." Jack cleared his throat. "How long exactly?" he asked. Lyra's smile trembled. "A very long time," she whispered. Jack leaned back in his chair. His instincts were sharp now. He could feel something strange in the air, not danger exactly, but a weight, a pressure, like being inside a deep ocean. Star clapped her hands. "Mom, let's show him the gifts," she said. Her voice was hopeful. She pulled Jack's arm, leading him to a corner of the room where dozens of wrapped boxes sat in neat rows. Each was tied with a black ribbon. Jack picked one up. Was heavy. Warm to the touch, he opened it carefully. Inside was a small object. A toy spaceship carved from some kind of crystal. Star smiled. "It's for you," she said. "We make one for every guest." Jack frowned. "Every guest?" he asked quietly. Star's smile faded. Lyra stood up quickly. "That's enough, Star," she said. But her voice shook. Jack put the toy back in the box and looked at Lyra. "How many guests have there been?" he asked. Lyra avoided his eyes. "Many," she said finally. "But you are different." The room grew colder. The candles flickered. The food on the table seemed to blur at the edges. Jack's hands tightened on the chair. "Why am I different?" he demanded. Star reached out and touched his arm. "Because you didn't try to run," she said. Her small fingers trembled. "The others always tried to run." Jack stood up. His heart pounding, he glanced back at the photos on the walls. At the gifts, at the endless table of food. It all felt like a stage set for a play that had gone on too long. "Where are the others now?" he asked. Lyra finally met his eyes. Her silver gaze shimmered like tears. "Gone," she said softly. "They couldn't handle the loneliness." Jack took a step back. You mean you killed them? He whispered. Lyra shook her head violently. No, she said. We didn't kill them. We tried to keep them here, but their minds broke. Their hearts turned cold. They left us by choice, or by falling apart. Her voice cracked on the last words. Jack stared at her, his mind spinning. He had seen many strange things in space pirates. Storms, even war, but nothing like this. This was not a trap built with weapons. It was a trap built with feelings. Star tugged at his hand again. Please don't leave, she whispered. You're the kindest one. Her eyes glowed brighter. Like stars trapped underwater, Jack looked at her and felt his anger fade for a moment. She was just a child, or at least she seemed like one. He knelt down, his voice softer now. Why do you bring people here, Star? He asked. Star's lip trembled. Because Mom is so lonely, she said again, and I can't make her happy by myself. Jack closed his eyes. His chest ached. He could feel the pull of the place, the strange gravity of its sadness. He knew he should leave, but his hands wouldn't let go of Star's behind them. Lyra whispered something under her breath. The walls flickered like a broken screen, and for a second, Jack saw another room beneath this wan dark, empty, full of machines and cables. A giant core pulsing with light. He blinked, and it was gone. He stood up quickly. What was that? He asked sharply. Lyra's face was pale. This is our home, she said, but it is also our cage. Jack looked between the two of them. What are you, really? He asked quietly. Lyra smiled faintly, but her eyes were wet. We are what's left, she said. Fragments of a family we once had. Star held his hand tighter. Please, just stay until the candles go out, she said again. Jack glanced at the candles. They were burning lower now, flickering like dying stars in that moment. He realized something. This wasn't just a birthday party. It was a ritual, a loop, a way of keeping themselves alive. And he was now part of it, outside. Through the crystal walls, shadows moved again. Larger this time, shifting closer. The house trembled like it was breathing. Jack felt the weight of the planet pressing down on him, like it was testing him, waiting for his choice. He swallowed hard, his voice low. I'm not like the others, he said. I'll find out the truth, but deep inside, he already knew. The truth was far worse than anything he could imagine. And the game they were playing was only just beginning. Jack woke up gasping for breath. His heart was racing. His hands were shaking. And for a moment, he did not know where he was. The soft, glowing walls of the alien house surrounded him. But his mind was somewhere else. He had been dreaming again. Only this time, the dream felt real. In the dream, he had a family, Lyra, Star, and himself sitting together at a table on a green field under a blue sky. Star was laughing. Lyra was smiling at him. He could even feel the warmth of their hands holding his. The dream was so vivid it hurt. He reached into his pocket and froze. There, in his palm, was a small metal hairpin. The exact one he had seen Lyra wearing in the dream. He had never touched it before, but now it was in his hand. Jack stared at the hairpin. His breathing grew heavy. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. These weren't just dreams. Someone or something was putting memories into his head. He stood up and stumbled toward the hallway. The walls flickered faintly as if watching him. He heard faint whispers in a language he didn't understand. Star appeared at the end of the hall, her eyes glowing faintly blue now instead of silver. You're awake, she said softly. Did you have nice dreams? Her voice was calm, but her hands twisted nervously at her dress. Jack took a step closer. Those weren't dreams, he said. You're putting things into my head. Star shook her head quickly. Not me, she said. I never do that. Mom does it sometimes. To make the guests happy, her words trailed off into a whisper. Jack's jaw clenched. Happy. He said, "You call this happy?" He pushed past her and entered the main chamber. Lyra was there, kneeling beside a pool of shimmering liquid in the floor. Her silver hair glowed in the dim light. She looked up at him. "You're remembering faster than the others," she said quietly. Her tone was not angry, it was almost admiring. Most guests take weeks before they notice. Jack dropped the hairpin at her feet. "What are you doing to me?" He demanded, "Why are you putting false memories in my head?" Lyra stood slowly, her hands trembling. "They're not false," she whispered. "They're borrowed." Jack frowned. "Borrowed from where?" Lyra stepped closer, her silver eyes glistening with unshed tears. "From us," she said. "From what we once were." She looked at Star, who had crept into the room behind Jack. "We're a dying species, Jack," she said softly. "We don't eat food like you. We don't drink water. We live on emotions, memories of love, memories of family." Jack's stomach turned. "So you steal them from strangers?" he asked. "You drag them here and feed on them?" Lyra shook her head again. "We don't steal. We share," she said. "We give them our memories too. It's the only way we remember what it's like to be alive. Our planet is dying. We're fading. But if we can feel love again, even for a little while, we survive." Star took a timid step forward. "I didn't want you to be hurt," she whispered. "I just wanted Mom to smile again." Jack rubbed his forehead. His mind was a storm. Part of him felt anger. Another part felt pity. He remembered the dream Lyra smiling, Star laughing, and a strange warmth inside him, a warmth that didn't belong to him, but was now a part of him. He looked at Star. "Why me?" he asked. "Why did you choose me?" Star looked down at her feet. "Because you looked lonely," she said softly. "You were just like us." Her words hit him harder than he expected. Jack turned back to Lyra. "How many men before me?" he asked, his voice low. Lyra's lips trembled. "Too many," she said. "Most of them didn't stay. Some broke apart. Some forgot who they were. We tried to help them, but—" She stopped, her eyes dropping to the floor. Jack's fists tightened, and the ones who broke apart. "Where are they now?" Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "Gone," she said. Their minds couldn't handle the sharing. They faded away. They became echoes in our walls. Jack took a step back. The walls around him flickered again, and for a moment he saw faces faint. Ghost-like faces pressed into the crystal. Silent mouths moving as if trying to speak. He blinked, and they were gone. His heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to run. But Star's small hand reached for his. "Please," she whispered, "don't leave. You're the only one who hasn't tried to run." Jack looked down at her. Her eyes were wide, shimmering like a child on the edge of tears. His anger softened for a moment. He crouched down to her level. "You're just a kid," he said quietly. "You shouldn't have to do this," Star sniffled. "I don't want to," she whispered. "But Mom says if we don't, we'll disappear." Jack stood. His mind racing, he glanced around the chamber. Looking for an exit, he noticed a door at the far side, partially hidden by a curtain of shimmering strands. He started toward it, but Lyra stepped into his path. "You don't understand," she said firmly. "We're not your enemy, Jack. We're just trying to live." Jack met her eyes. His voice was low, steady. "Then tell me the truth." Lyra hesitated. Her silver eyes flicked to Star, then back to him. "The truth," she whispered. "The truth is, we can't survive without you." Jack felt the room tighten around him. The air heavier than before. The candles flickered and dimmed. The walls whispered again, louder this time. He turned his head and saw movement in the shadows, figures slipping between the walls like ghosts. The faces of men he had never met staring at him with hollow eyes. He backed away slowly, his hand on his tool. His voice came out in a whisper. "What have you done to me?" Lyra reached out, her hand trembling. "We gave you memories," she said, "but we didn't take anything yet. You still have a choice." Jack's pulse hammered in his ears. He looked at Star, at Lyra, at the flickering walls. "Then I choose to find a way out," he said. His voice was low but firm. Star's eyes filled with tears. "If you leave, we'll die," she whispered. Jack turned away, his jaw tight. He didn't answer, but deep inside, a part of him, but touched by the dreams, was already breaking. He wasn't sure if he could escape. He wasn't sure if he wanted to. And somewhere behind the walls, the echoes of the past guests whispered his name. Calling him deeper into the trap, Jack walked slowly down the dim hallway, his boots echoing on the smooth crystal floor. Every wall shimmered like water frozen in motion. But what disturbed him most were the faint outline shapes of faces, hands and eyes that flickered just beneath the surface. Watching, his breath felt heavier now, not because of the air, but because of the weight of what he had learned. This wasn't just an alien home, it was a cage of memories. Built from sorrow and loneliness, Star and Lyra had said they were just trying to survive. But Jack could feel something darker beneath their soft voices and sad eyes. Something buried deep at the end of the hallway. Jack found a door made of obsidian-like stone, not glowing like the rest of the house. He placed his hand on it and felt a sudden chill. The door hissed open slowly, revealing a hidden chamber inside. It was quiet, colder than the rest of the place. The walls were covered in strange symbols, etched into black glass. And in the center of the room stood rows of tall glass pods. Jack stepped closer, heart thudding. Inside the pods were suits, dozens of them, all human. All different. Some were old and rusted, others newer but covered in dust. Jack reached out and wiped the glass of one pod. His own reflection stared back at him. The man inside the pod had the same face, but his eyes were empty. Like someone who had forgotten everything, he stepped back quickly. His pulse rising. This was a memorial, or maybe a warning. The other guests, the men Lyra had talked about, were all here. Not as memories, but as shells. Jack moved from pod to pod, and each one sent a chill through him. Some had names scratched into the metal. Others didn't. One pod was cracked, and inside was nothing but dust. Suddenly, a whisper echoed through the room, not from behind him but inside his own head. They didn't want to leave, not at first. Jack spun around. But no one was there. They gave in, little by little. Like melting ice, he clutched his head, the whispers growing louder. Images flashed before his eyes, moments he never lived. Feelings he never felt, holding Star's hand as she learned to walk. Lyra smiling at him under alien moons. Laughter in a garden that didn't exist. He stumbled backward, hitting a wall. The whisper stopped, replaced by silence. Then, a soft voice broke the quiet. "You shouldn't be in here." It was Star. Standing in the doorway, her small frame seemed even smaller now, like the light around her was fading. Jack looked at her, his voice rough. "Why are you doing this? Why keep bringing people here? To replace what you lost?" Star walked in slowly, eyes down. "No one ever stayed," she whispered. "They all said they would, but they left. They promised. But they lied." Jack pointed at the pods. "They didn't leave. They're still here, trapped, broken." Empty. Star didn't look up. "That wasn't us," she said. "The house. It changes people. It's alive, it remembers, and it doesn't like when people try to go." Jack's eyes narrowed. "So you knew this could happen, and you still brought me here." Star finally looked at him, her eyes filled with tears. "Because you were kind," she said. "Because you looked lonely. Like us." He stepped away from the pods. Breathing hard. "This place, your mother." None of this is right. You're not helping people. You're destroying them. Star looked like she might break. I didn't want to hurt you, she whispered. But I can't be alone again. Jack softened. Just slightly, he could see she was afraid. But that didn't change the danger. He knelt down, eye level with her. Then help me fix it, he said. We can find a way to save you and your mom without taking others. But you have to trust me. Star hesitated, her hands clenched tightly. The house won't let you go, she said. It's already inside you. It's giving you dreams, memories. Pieces of us, I know, Jack said quietly. But I'm still me. I haven't forgotten who I am. Star stepped back slowly, her face torn with emotion. Then you have to move fast, she whispered. Before it takes more. Jack stood and followed her out of the chamber. But as they walked back into the glowing halls, he could already feel his mind slipping. A memory flashed, Star hugging him tightly as her father. Lyra kissing his cheek, his own voice whispering. We're a family now. He shook his head violently. No, he told himself. That's not real, but the voice inside him said something else. Or maybe it is, and you just don't want to accept it. That night, Jack didn't sleep. He sat by the strange window of his room, watching the stars burn outside, wondering which memories were truly his, and which ones the house had painted into him. He looked down at his hand, where Star had held him earlier. The warmth still lingered, but was it real, or just another echo? He knew he had to leave, and soon. But first, he needed answers, real ones, before the house swallowed him like it did the others. Tomorrow, he would search for the core, the heart of this place. And if it meant burning it down to free them all, so be it, because Jack wasn't just another guest. He was going to be the last. Jack sat on the floor of his room, hunched over, his hands trembling slightly. His breath came in short, tight bursts as he stared into the mirror on the wall. It wasn't just a mirror anymore. It shimmered like water, and in the reflection, he didn't see only himself, he saw versions of himself, dozens of them, laughing, crying, living lives he never remembered living, in one reflection. He was sitting at a table with Lyra, her hand in his. Star playing in the background in another. He was holding Star like a real father, smiling proudly. The images flickered and changed like channels on an old TV, shifting so fast he could barely process them. He punched the mirror, but his fist passed through it like mist. And the surface rippled, laughing silently at his confusion. Then came the voice, calm, mechanical, and familiar. Memory corruption detected. Jack froze. His suit, his old engineering suit, still connected to a backup AI. It had gone quiet since his arrival. But now it was speaking again. Cognitive override in progress. 63% complete. No, Jack whispered, standing quickly. I'm not giving in. He rushed to the storage compartment in the corner of the room, yanking open the panel and pulling out his damaged helmet. Inside was a small blinking node, the AI core. He slapped it onto his wrist panel, and a dull blue light lit up. Welcome back, Commander Jack Moran, the AI said flatly. Emergency rescue protocol re-engaged. Jack's heart dropped. Rescue. He repeated, what the hell are you talking about? Your mission was to investigate emotional anomalies on this planet. Subject colony marked as Echo Nest, suspected of memory harvesting. It hit him like a bolt of lightning. He hadn't just wandered here, he had been sent. You were captured mid-investigation, the AI continued. Your memories were suppressed and overwritten. Jack stumbled backward. Images flooding his mind, briefings, landing coordinates. His ship breaking apart in the atmosphere. The moment Star found him. Or was sent to find him. He gritted his teeth. How do I stop it? Emotional anchors must be severed. You must reject false connections before the override completes. False connections. The dreams, the warmth, the sense of family, it was all part of the trap. But Jack's chest tightened because even now, knowing the truth, part of him didn't want to let go of those memories. He marched out of the room, his boots pounding with purpose. The corridors twisted unnaturally now, like the house knew he had woken up. Lights flickered above him, and voices called his name in soft whispers. He followed the map displayed on his wrist, the AI guiding him deeper, toward what it called the core. As he moved, he saw visions around him. Projected on the walls, Star crying in the garden, Lyra singing beside a glowing lake, himself dancing with them under alien stars. His throat ached, but he pushed forward. Finally, he arrived. A massive door stood before him, carved with ancient patterns, pulsing with light. Core detected. Memory engine located behind barrier, the AI said. Jack reached for the handle, but before he could touch it, Lyra stepped out from the shadows. Her eyes were tired, filled with grief. "You remember now?" she said softly. Not as a question, but a statement. "Yes," Jack said, his voice firm. "I remember everything." Lyra stepped closer. "And do you hate us for it?" Jack hesitated. "I should," he said, "but I don't." Lyra looked surprised, "Even after what we did to you?" "You tried to survive," Jack said, "but so did I." From behind her, Star appeared, her eyes red and wet. "Are you going to leave?" she asked. Her voice shook. Jack looked at her, and his heart cracked again. He knelt down, looking her in the eyes. "I'm not your dad," he said gently, "and these memories, they aren't mine." Star sobbed and ran to Lyra, holding her tightly. Lyra stroked her hair, then looked at Jack. "Will you destroy us?" "I don't know," he said honestly, "but I can't let this continue." He stepped forward. Placing his hand on the door, it opened with a hiss, revealing a massive chamber filled with pulsing crystals and floating threads of light memories. Billions of them. In the center was a giant heart-like engine. Throbbing softly, the AI spoke again. "Initiate memory purge." Jack stared at the engine, every part of him torn in two. If he shut this down, Lyra and Star might fade away forever. They were born of this machine, creatures of memory and feeling, not flesh and bone. But if he didn't, more humans would fall into this trap, more minds would be lost. Then, Star's voice called out behind him. "Wait." He turned, and saw her holding out a glowing crystal. "This is mine," she said, "the only real memory I made. With you." Jack stepped back, confused. "What?" "I didn't fake everything," Star said. "That moment in the garden when we looked at the stars, I made that just me." The AI chimed. "Unique memory detected. Anomaly confirmed." Jack's eyes widened. "You're learning." Lyra stepped forward. "She's not like me," she said. "She was born from the machine, but she's becoming more than it." Jack looked down at the crystal, then at Star. "Then maybe there's another way," he said quietly. He turned to the AI. "Shut down the engine, but don't destroy the memories. Save what's real, erase what's stolen." "Confirmed," the AI replied, and the engine pulsed brightly, then dimmed. The walls trembled, and the voices faded. One by one, the ghosts in the crystal melted away. But Star remained, glowing softly in the dim light. Lyra began to fade, her body turning to mist. She smiled as she vanished. "Thank you for letting her live." Jack stood in the silence, staring at Star. "You did it," she whispered. "No," Jack said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We did," and together they walked out of the chamber. Not as father and daughter, not as strangers, but as to survivors, each carrying a memory that was finally, truly their own. Asterisk, the stars outside the window no longer pulsed with the same strange rhythm. The house was quiet now, its walls dim and still, like it was sleeping or dying. Jack sat in the pilot chair of his repaired shuttle, But he wasn't ready to leave yet. Star sat beside him, holding the small glowing crystal in her hands, the only true memory she had made on her own. Behind them, the house that had once felt alive now looked hollow. Its glow faded, its hum silent. Jack had shut down the memory engine, but a part of it remained in Star. Not stolen memories, not borrowed dreams, but something real. Star was quiet, staring into the crystal like she was trying to understand it. "Is she gone?" she asked softly. Jack didn't answer right away. His voice was low when he finally spoke. Lyra was never fully here to begin with. She was part of the machine. A projection. A dream that never stopped dreaming. Star looked up at him. Her eyes searching, but she loved me. Jack nodded slowly. She did in her own way, even if she was made of memories. She chose to protect you at the end. That was real. A soft chime echoed from the ship's console. Jack checked the system stable now, the AI quiet but active. The way home was clear. Earth was waiting. But something still didn't feel finished. "Before we go," Star said, "can I show you something?" Jack looked at her and saw something different in her eyes. Not just sadness, not fear, but purpose. He nodded, and she led him back into the house. Through the empty corridors, down past the quiet walls where once the whispers had echoed. Now there was only silence. They arrived at a door Jack had never seen before. It opened to a small chamber bathed in blue light. In the center was a cradle, not for a baby, but for memory-floating strands of glowing thread danced like fireflies. "This is the seed room," Star said, "where I was made." Jack stared at the threads. Hundreds of them, tangled and pulsing with light. "These are memories?" he asked. Star nodded. "The ones that didn't belong to anyone anymore. The engine used them to make me bits of love, fear, hope, even loneliness." Jack walked slowly around the room, touching one of the glowing threads gently. An image flashed in his mind, two sisters playing by a river, their laughter echoing across a long-forgotten world. "They're beautiful," he whispered. Star smiled softly. "They're pieces of people who are gone, but they didn't want to be forgotten. So they became part of something new." Jack turned to her. "And you want to carry that forward?" Star nodded again. "Not like before, not by stealing or tricking, but by remembering them the right way, by sharing them, not taking." Jack looked at her, truly seeing her for the first time not as an alien girl, not as a trap, but as something completely new. "You're not just a memory," he said. "You're a beginning." Her eyes filled with quiet tears. "Then let me give you something." She stepped closer. Placing her hands on his temples, Jack tried to pull away, afraid of another forced memory, but this felt different. Her voice was gentle. "This isn't a dream. It's my memory. Just mine." And then it came soft and slow. Jack stood in a field under two suns. Star running through the grass ahead of him. Laughing, he was smiling, watching her. No fear, no pain, only peace. Then Lyra was there, standing at a distance. Not speaking, just watching them. Her silver eyes were full of something close to pride, not sorrow. She nodded once, then turned and walked into the light, fading peacefully. Jack opened his eyes, breathing hard. He was back in the seed room. But the warmth of the vision stayed in his chest. "That was you?" he asked quietly. Star nodded. "It was the first memory I made all by myself. I wanted you to have it, so no one would forget us." Jack crouched beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You're not going to be forgotten," he said. "Not while I'm still breathing." They left the chamber together. The house now nothing more than walls and stone. The energy was gone, but the memory remained in Star. And now in Jack, back on the ship. Jack entered new coordinates, not to Earth exactly, but to the nearest outpost with advanced AI facilities. Star would be safe there. He would make sure of it as they lifted off. Star looked out the window, the house shrinking behind them until it vanished among the stars. She whispered, "Will Earth like me?" Jack smiled. "They're going to love you," he said. "Just be yourself." The stars stretched ahead. The future open, and for the first time in years, Jack felt something he hadn't felt in a long, long time: hope. Because the past was made of broken memories, but the future, now, was real. And it was theirs. Years passed, but Jack never truly forgot her. Star had grown quickly once they reached the Earth outpost on Titan's moon. She absorbed knowledge like a sponge. Not just data or facts, but emotions, empathy. The delicate little details of human life. The scientists didn't know what to call her. She wasn't fully AI, not fully alien either. She was something new. They studied her respectfully. With Jack watching every move, he made sure she was never treated like an experiment. Never locked in a lab. She's not a subject, he had told them. She's a person, and she was. Her first words at the research center were quiet, but clear. "My name is Star, and I would like to learn how to be." Real Jack had stayed nearby for a time. He trained with the security teams, helped the engineers fix old tech. But mostly, he visited Star every day. She would greet him with a soft smile and a warm, gentle hug that never felt programmed. "I'm not lonely anymore," she told him once. "But I miss her." Jack didn't need to ask who she meant. Lyra's memory remained in both of them, echoes of the dream, of the place that had nearly stolen him, but had somehow saved them both instead. Eventually, Jack had to leave. The call of Earth was strong, and so was the need for quiet after everything. He needed time to breathe under real skies, to walk on grass and hear the wind move through trees. They hugged one last time before he boarded the shuttle. Star gave him a small crystal, her own memory archive. "So you won't forget," she said with a soft smile. "I couldn't forget you if I tried," Jack had replied. And now, 10 years later, Jack stood in the middle of a quiet Earth field, surrounded by tall golden grass swaying under the soft orange glow of the sunset. He was older, slower, the lines around his eyes deeper, but his spirit was lighter. His hands were dirty with soil. He had spent the last few years growing things: fruit trees, flowers, a small vegetable patch, living quietly, away from the noise of space and missions. His old suit was retired, his ship long gone. The only remnant of his journey was the crystal Star had given him, now tucked safely in a pendant around his neck. Then, one evening, just as he was pouring water over the roots of a young tree, the air shimmered at first. He thought it was a heat wave, a trick of the light. But then he heard it, a soft hum. Familiar and warm, he turned slowly, heart beginning to race. A tall figure stepped out of a glowing portal at the edge of the field. She had long, dark hair, eyes that shimmered like stars, and a gentle, quiet confidence in her walk. Jack dropped the watering can. Star was no longer a child. She had grown into herself, human enough to pass in a crowd. But her eyes still held galaxies. "You've gotten old," she teased. Her voice now richer, more mature, but still filled with the same warmth. Jack laughed, wiping a tear from his eye. "And you've gotten real." She stepped closer. And for a moment, they just looked at each other. Years of silence erased in that one shared glance. Then she wrapped her arms around him and hugged him tightly. "You came all this way?" Jack asked, still stunned. "I had to," she smiled. "It's her birthday." Jack blinked, confused. "Whose?" Star stepped back and pulled something from her bag, a small cake, perfectly round, topped with glowing fruit that pulsed gently like heartbeat lights. "Lyra's," she said softly. "She's gone. But I want to remember her the right way this time. Not in a loop, not in a trap, just..." With love, they sat together under the tree, sharing the cake as the sun dipped below the hills. Star told him about her life, how she had become a teacher for young AI and hybrid children, how she had started a program to preserve memory ethically. She had created a home where no memory was stolen, only shared with consent, a place where everyone, even those lost or forgotten, could still matter. Is that why you came? Jack asked, to tell me all this? Star smiled, but shook her head. I came because I missed you. Jack's throat tightened. He placed a hand on her shoulder. You'll always be my brightest memory, he said quietly. The wind blew through the grass again, and Star looked up at the sky. Even in space, she whispered. Love finds a way, Jack nodded. Staring at the stars above, yeah, he said. It always does. As night fell, the two of them stayed there under the tree. A father who never expected to be one, and a daughter who was born from loneliness but found herself through love. And somewhere in the far reaches of the universe, an old house of crystal and light crumbled gently into dust. Finally at peace, knowing its last memory had become something real. Something beautiful. Not a trap, not a cage, but a story, a beginning, a life.